Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going on a journey back to 19th century Africa to uncover the story of Msiri,
Fascinating guy.
a remarkable figure who built a powerful kingdom in Katanga,
Now part of the DRC.
now part of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to learn that our sources for this deep dive include historical accounts, some from European explorers and missionaries,
Of course.
but also fascinating narratives passed down
Yes.
through Garangan's oral history.
It's precisely this blend of sources that makes Msiri's story so captivating.
Right?
We're dealing with a figure shrouded in both mystery and controversy.
Yeah.
A king whose legacy is viewed through multiple lenses.
So we're in for a real treat today.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's dive in and discover how this traitor-turned-king rose to power, the strategies he employed, and ultimately the events that led to his dramatic downfall.
Yeah. I think you'll find his story especially intriguing because it truly underscores the complexities of pre-colonial Africa, a period often overlooked or misunderstood.
Okay, let's set the stage. Our story begins in Tabora, present-day Tanzania, where Msiri was born into a family deeply ingrained in the bustling East African trade networks. And what was the driving force behind this economic activity?
Copper. It was the highly sought-after treasure of the region. And Msiri's father, Kalasa, was already making ventures into Katanga to acquire it, establishing crucial relationships with local leaders. Even at this early stage, you can see the ambition taking root.
So Msiri, with his sharp mind, recognized that the real key to power in this environment wasn't just copper, but something else entirely.
Absolutely. He witnessed a shift in the balance of power and quickly understood the significance of firearms.
Right.
Using the copper and ivory at his disposal, he cleverly started trading for guns, assembling a militia, and demonstrating his ability to adapt and capitalize on new technologies.
And like any ambitious leader, Msiri sets his sights on Katanga, the land of copper. What happens next?
Here's where Msiri's strategic brilliance shines. Instead of brute force, he initially forged an alliance with the existing ruler in Katanga, a king who coincidentally was also named Katanga.
Oh, wow.
This savvy move allowed Msiri to establish himself as a valuable ally, providing military services and showcasing his tactical prowess to those around him.
A classic actions speak louder than words approach to leadership. I bet he made quite an impression.
He did. Savi carefully cultivated his reputation, steadily consolidating power through a calculated combination of military strength and strategic alliances. Ultimately, he ascended to become the king of this vast territory, which he renamed Garanganzi.
It's an incredible rise to power, but his story doesn't stop there. Msiri went even further, establishing a network of trade routes that stretched across the African continent, connecting the Atlantic and Indian Ocean coasts.
That's right. One source even describes it as the first transcontinental trading route, a testament to his ambitious vision and his understanding of economic power. It's a detail that completely reshapes our understanding of trade and connectivity in pre-colonial Africa.
Speaking of Msiri's strategic brilliance, let's talk about his rather unique approach to marriage. Over 500 wives. I can barely manage my email inbox.
Oh my goodness.
I can't imagine trying to keep track of 500 different birthdays.
Well, Msiri's marriages were far more than simple personal relationships. He was a master strategist, and he understood the power of information. Think of it this way. Each wife, originating from the village of a subordinate chief, became a vital source of information, his eyes and ears throughout the kingdom.
So he created a vast intelligence network through marriage. That's remarkable.
It certainly demonstrates his political acumen, but it also raises questions about the lives of these women. They were, in essence, strategically placed within his network, ensuring the loyalty of their families and acting as a safeguard against potential uprisings.
It's a fascinating, albeit complex, aspect of his leadership. So Msiri's consolidating power, building this incredible trade network. But then a new threat appears on the horizon.
Exactly. As Msiri was strengthening his kingdom, the late 19th century ushered in the era of European colonialism, the infamous Scramble for Africa.
Oh boy.
European powers, driven by their own ambitions, were casting their eyes on Katanga's mineral wealth. King Leopold II of Belgium, with his Congo-free state, and Cecil Rhodes representing the British South Africa Company. Both saw Msiri's kingdom as a prize to be claimed.
The arrival of these European powers must have created an incredibly challenging situation for Msiri. How did he navigate this new landscape?
Well, he demonstrated a remarkable awareness of the shifting political dynamics, one of his first moves. was to invite Scottish missionary Frederick Stanley Arnott to Bunkia.
What was he hoping to achieve by inviting a missionary into his inner circle?
Msiri recognized that Arnott, and missionaries in general, possessed valuable insights into the workings of European powers. He was strategically seeking advice, trying to understand his adversaries, and gain an advantage in this new geopolitical game.
He was always thinking a few steps ahead.
Indeed. And it's worth noting that other missionaries, like Charles Swan and Dan Crawford, followed Arnott, further bolstering Msiri's network of advisors and providing him with different perspectives on the approaching European powers.
It's a testament to his adaptability and his willingness to embrace new sources of knowledge. But some historians suggest there might have been another more calculated motive behind Msiri's hospitality towards the missionaries.
That's right. There's a theory that Msiri may have also considered the missionaries as potential leverage, much like the wives of his subordinate chiefs. In a time of such uncertainty, it wouldn't be surprising if he saw them as a potential bargaining chip in negotiations with the Europeans.
Well, strategic insurance policy, perhaps.
Exactly. It was a high-stakes game, and Msiri was playing to survive. But as we know, the story doesn't end well for Msiri. The arrival of the heavily armed Stairs expedition, sent by King Leopold in December 1891, marked a turning point, a descent into a much darker chapter. The arrival of the Stairs expedition dramatically changed the situation. It was led by Captain Stairs, a man known for his ruthlessness, and their mission was clear: to secure Katanga for King Leopold.
That must have been a tense moment for Msiri. How did he react to this show of force?
Well, Msiri was a skilled negotiator, but the arrival of such a heavily armed force undoubtedly put him on edge. Negotiations between him and Captain Stairs began, but they quickly reached an impasse. Msiri, sensing the growing danger, made the decision to leave Bunkia and retreat to a fortified village.
A strategic retreat, perhaps, hoping to buy himself some time.
It's possible. However, this decision proved to be a fatal one. As Msiri and his men were departing, a confrontation erupted between him and a Belgian officer, Lieutenant Omer Bodson. In the ensuing chaos, Bodson shot and killed Msiri.
What a dramatic turn of events. But you mentioned earlier that there are conflicting accounts surrounding this incident.
Yes. The details of Msiri's death are contested, particularly in the Garanganzo oral histories. They claim that Msiri was unarmed at the time of the confrontation, and that Bodson acted aggressively, provoking the incident. This perspective challenges the European accounts that emphasize self-defense and paint a different picture of the events. That led to Msiri's death.
So we have these two very different versions of the story, highlighting the importance of considering multiple perspectives and recognizing that history is often told from the viewpoint of the victors. What happened after Msiri's death?
Well, this is where the story takes a particularly brutal turn. One of the officers with the Stairs expedition, Christian Bonchamp, later revealed a chilling detail. They decapitated Msiri. His head was placed on a pole as a warning, a barbaric lesson intended to intimidate the Garangan's people.
That's horrific. It speaks volumes about the brutality and the dehumanizing nature of colonial conquest. And the fate of Msiri's head remains a mystery to this day.
It does. Some accounts claim it was taken back to Europe as a trophy, while others suggest it was abandoned somewhere along the journey. The Garanganze, however, believed that it was buried in Zambia. This enduring mystery surrounding Msiri's head adds another layer of complexity to his story. It becomes a powerful symbol of the erasure and appropriation of African history, a testament to the disrespect shown to Msiri, his people, and their culture.
It's a stark reminder of the lasting impact of colonialism and the need to re-examine history through a more critical lens. So what became of the Yeke Kingdom after Msiri's death?
The Stairs expedition, having achieved their objective of eliminating Msiri, sought to solidify their control over Katanga. They installed Msiri's adopted son as a puppet ruler, significantly diminishing the power of the Yeke kingship. They also reinstated the Wasanga chieftainships that Msiri had overthrown years earlier.
It seems they employed the classic divide-and-conquer strategy to dismantle existing power structures and assert their dominance.
Precisely. It was a calculated move to weaken the Yeke kingdom and ensure that any future leader would be more compliant with their interests. The Stairs expedition eventually departed, but the damage was done. The Yeke kingdom, once a powerful and unified force in the region, was fractured, its leadership compromised. In fact, another expedition, the Baya expedition, arrived from the north to try and maintain control. But even they couldn't. This power vacuum led to infighting amongst the chiefs, and many Garangan's people fled to escape the escalating conflict.
So Msiri's death not only marked the end of his reign, but also the beginning of a period of turmoil and instability for the Yeke Kingdom. It's a tragic outcome for a leader who had achieved so much. And this is where the question of legacy comes into play, right? The sources we have paint vastly different portraits of this man.
They do. European sources often depict Msiri as a cruel and despotic tyrant. They point to the harsh punishments he meted out, and the skulls of his enemies, which were displayed on the palisades of Bonkia, as evidence of his brutality.
It's a grim image, one that easily feeds into the stereotype of the savage African ruler.
It does. But then we have the account of missionary Frederick Stanley Arnott, who, as you remember, lived in Bonkia for 3 years. He had a very different perspective. Referring to Msiri as a thorough gentleman, Arnott described Bonkia as a relatively peaceful and orderly capital.
These contrasting depictions really highlight the importance of considering the biases inherent in historical accounts.
Absolutely. We have to remember that European explorers and colonizers had their own agendas. They needed to justify their actions, to legitimize their conquest and exploitation of Africa. And what better way to do that than to paint African leaders like Msiri as savages in need of civilization?
So Msiri, in their narrative, becomes the villain, the justification for their actions.
Precisely. And it's crucial to remember that Msiri couldn't write his own memoir to defend himself or offer his perspective on the event.
That's a great point. It underscored how history is often written by the victors, and how those who are silenced or marginalized can be easily misrepresented. We're left with this puzzle, this image of a leader who was both feared and respected, a shrewd strategist who understood the intricacies of power, but ultimately fell victim to the relentless forces of colonialism. It really makes you think about how our understanding of historical figures like Msiri is shaped by those who documented his life, those who held the power to control the narrative.
Yeah, it's a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of seeking out multiple perspectives and questioning the dominant narratives that we often encounter. In Msiri's case, we have these glimpses into his character that challenge the simple label of tyrant.
You're right. Take, for example, his decision to invite missionaries into his capital. He could have easily shut them out, but instead he chose to engage with them, seek their advice, and even form relationships.
That's a crucial detail that often gets overlooked. It suggests a degree of openness, a willingness to learn and adapt, qualities that don't often fit the stereotypical image of a ruthless dictator. We have to remember that Msiri was navigating a world of constantly shifting alliances and power dynamics. He had to be strategic to survive, and building connections with those who could offer insight into the European powers was a shrewd move.
It's like he was playing a high-stakes game of chess, constantly calculating his next move, trying to anticipate his opponent's strategies.
Exactly. And in this game, the rules were constantly changing, adding another layer of complexity to his decision-making. Msiri had to balance his own ambitions with the need to protect his kingdom and his people. He had to make difficult choices, some of which, when viewed through a modern lens, might seem harsh. But we must remember to consider the context, the time, and the circumstances in which he was operating.
It's a reminder that we can't judge historical figures solely by today's standards. We need to strive to understand them within their own world, a world that was often very different from our own.
Precisely. And while Msiri's methods might not always align with modern sensibilities, we can't deny his accomplishments. He built a vast and prosperous trading network, connected different cultures, and for a time, effectively resisted the encroachment of European colonialism. So, what can we learn from Msiri's story? What insights can we take away from this deep dive?
I think it challenges us to reconsider our assumptions about pre-colonial Africa. This wasn't a stagnant continent waiting to be discovered by Europeans. It was a dynamic world with complex societies, sophisticated political structures, and individuals like Msiri who were shaping the course of history.
You've hit the nail on the head. Msiri's legacy serves as a powerful reminder that history is rarely black and white. It's filled with nuances, contradictions, and stories that deserve to be told and retold from multiple perspectives. And perhaps a final thought for you to ponder. We discussed the enduring mystery surrounding the fate of Msiri's head. What if it were to be found? What would that mean for the Garanganzi people? Would it be a chance to finally lay their king to rest with the dignity and respect he deserved?
Right. That's a powerful image, a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It continues to shape the present in ways we might not always realize. Mary's story raises important questions about power, resistance, and the legacies of colonialism that continue to resonate today. I encourage you to delve deeper into this fascinating period of history, explore the story of the Yeke Kingdom, the complexities of pre-colonial Africa, and the lasting impact of Msiri's life and legacy and